According to the World Health Organization, South Africa has one of the highest per capita rates of alcohol consumption in the world. To curb this, government wants to raise the legal drinking age from 18 to 21. Will this increase have any impact in a country where research shows that most youngsters are underage when they start drinking? In this episode, we tell stories of young people who struggle with alcohol. What does their future hold for them? In September, we brought you the story of 20-year-old Kabelo who was struggling with alcohol. He had just left rehab and was hoping for a better life. 3 months later, we bring you an update on how he has been doing after our first broadcast.
Ngisasemncane kakhulu. Sure maybe ngalesikhathi ngisakhula. Ngoba ubaba wami bungumuntu ophuzayo. Sure netami bebanginika ebeer.
In our previous episode, we introduced you to Kabelo, who is only 20 years old. Like many other children, he grew up in an environment with alcoholism. He had only been in rehab for 6 weeks and had been an alcoholic for as long as he could remember.
Ubaba wami bekaphuza kakhulu, ayikancane kakhulu. Bese kude kanje. Uyaffecte kakhulu impilo yami ngoba bengeke ngenze izinto without utshwala. Maybe ngasho ukuthi uke wabona umuntu ohlanyayo manga ngaphuza ngamapilisi uyohlanya wese maka bophuzile uzoba sharp nami bese njalo bese bu addictive kimi bese ngiphuza ngama weekend nobu maybe ubaba wamaphuza mayeka etoilet ngitshontshe nami ngithele kancane ngiphuze kanjalo.
Kabelo says his relationship with his father was strained for a very long time, and because of that, he says he had no one to guide him.
Ubaba wami akasaphuzi naye yabo chintshile ngoba futhi ezinye izinto ushaya stroke yabo manje utshwala akusafuneki emzimbeni wakhe ngoba izoma-affecta kakhulu yabo wayeko ukuphuza mara i-relationship yami ngalesikhathi ngisakhula ngisasemncane bengidinga i-father figure bengidinga ubaba wami yabona kakhulu manje khani singathi manje sisalungisa izinto yabo mara akunakuthi ngamblame naye maybe bekankinga zakhe yabo.
But what did he regret most about his days as an alcoholic?
Uphatha inkunzi yabo thathele abantu amafoni imali yabona mangilwa umuntu ngamulala yabo ngigwazi angithi i-mindset yami ngidrunk ngidakiwe mina ngibona ngizokusola mase ngisuba ukuthi umuntu bekayenza into ekanje nakanje yabo sengiyasola thola umuntu sesibhedlela ngimgwazile ngamabhodlela ini yabo lezo zinto namanje sisangidla manje yabo.
Kabelo realized he needed help and booked himself into rehab.
Into engizikishile la impilo yami ngasho half impilo yami bengi-addictive since ngisasemncane since ngiphuza ngenza izinto eziningi khani manje le ngizela ngisho ngithi ngiphila impilo enormal otherwise ngalesikhathi ngisasingaphandle bengingaphili impilo enormal.
Kabelo was to leave rehab soon, but feared triggers that would set him off drinking again. We asked him if he would keep his old friends once he was out of rehab.
Abangani kahle baphuma endleleni i-trouble kimi yabo. Mele mina ngishele kahle ukuthi abangani ngisabafuni. Ngezinto mina ngifila kuyenza ngoba ngikhule vele i-peer pressure into ezinjalo sijuthana ukuthi hayi masenzeni kanje nakanje manje hayi abangani ngicabanga.
He is one of the many young people between the ages of 10 and 19 who experiment with alcohol and unfortunately get addicted. In South Africa, scenes like these are commonplace. Young people drink themselves into a stupor. Peer pressure drives them to addiction, but other factors are also to blame. Temba Interactive is a township advocacy group that seeks to eradicate alcoholism among the youth. They say the environment under which young people grow up is important.
When young people are exposed to alcohol within their home, within their community, where they see their parents, their caretakers indulging in alcohol daily, where they live in an area where there are a lot of shebeens and taverns, they begin to think that alcohol is a way of life, and therefore they see no fault in indulging in alcohol.
A week since we last spoke to Kabelo, and on this day, he was leaving the rehab center for a fresh start on life. A life without alcohol and friends who are negative influences. Kabelo was nervous about going back to the same community for fear of being tempted by reminders of his old life. Just as Kabelo feared, on his arrival back home, his old friends drinking was the first sight to greet him.
African trophy.
uyochintsha wena umuntu maka igasi lona ichintshe yabo file amagents hayi engiphathanga kahle ngoba lento le emotion impilo zethu yabo mara bengiyabawishela ukuthi nabo bangayibona lento ukuthi mele bachange empilweni yabo
nkasimonke kamkinya komgodi either way o tlo ya somewhere o tlo bathola batho bana so e tlo tswa mo wena hore o hodile ha ka kang o kgona ho handlela ha ka kang ntho tse jwalo ke la bona because ke believe hore if ever o etla mo wena tlamole tshwara ka manako ka se dulo ba le so ntho tse so tlamole di face la re ka mtlo sa ramisa ko Germany o tlo thola ntse ba batho tsa bana so either way ena tlamole prepare ba bona a bona hore wa tsa ke nke ready ntho ke dila jwang abe comfortable o dula le batho ba no ena sa no cold drink because le mo dipating you find those kind of people o tlile wa jaiva but
Surviving the first days and staying sober was Kabelo's primary concern, and so he wasn't going to be staying at his brother's house, but chose to rather stay at a local church where he felt safer from temptation. He was accompanied by his brother Karabo to the pastor's home. For the next while, Kabelo stayed with other young people with a history of drinking or other substance abuse problems at the Hands of God International Ministries Church. He was under the care of Pastor Makobedu, who has worked with young people like him for many years.
How are you, Kabelo? No, you are more than welcome. We bless the Lord, Kabelo. And ratali passion e ona liona ore go batla wela skolong and you are ready to change. So you are more than welcome. This is your new family. Le bona ne ba fitile motseleng go tsamaile mo yona, so you are more than welcome. Re ka mo shapela matso, amen.
Kabelo's new faith community welcomes him with open arms.
As we are one family, we have a new brother in our midst. by the name of Kabelo, and Hatsama Aliwane Otsamali, his brother Barinke Karabo. So our love as family, we welcome them in the mighty name of Jesus. Many parents, many people, they have rejected young people out there. That's why we have seen it as an important thing to bring them in the house of the Lord.
In the unfortunate event of death, the last thing your family should have to worry about is money.
That is why all clientele funeral plans pay out within 24 hours.
Plus, we will send 200 Rand free airtime to help with the necessary funeral arrangements.
I'm very proud to have given my cousin a decent funeral, because that is very important in our culture.
Clientele funeral plans are affordable. They start from just 99 Rand per month.
It's easy to apply. No medical examinations, no paperwork. It includes an unveiling and a grocery benefit.
Important. You can cover up to 13 people on one plan.
And on our Ultimate Dignity plan, you can get all your premiums back. Yes, all your money back on top of your cover amount.
I'm
very grateful to Clientele.
SMS funeral to 47025.
In our previous episode, we also introduced Zoe, a 24-year-old from Johannesburg. She, like Kabelo, started drinking alcohol at a very young age.
I was 11 when I started drinking. First time I had my first drink, it was a social scene. We had a party at the house. My mom wasn't there, and I drank excessively. I drank until I physically could not drink anymore. I ended up blacking out. I don't remember most of the evening, and when I did wake up, I was lying in a pool of blood by a toilet. I was vomiting, and eventually my stomach had nothing else but that to drink.
Dr. Alan Peters is a physician at the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. He sees the effects of alcohol on a daily basis.
Alcohol can intoxicate the brain. The effects of alcohol can affect your cerebellum. And so that's why people stagger. They can often get stomach side effects with vomiting. They can get a hemorrhagic gastritis. 60% of binge drinkers can develop atrial fibrillation, so your heart doesn't beat correctly, become disinhibited, you take more risks, your sexual behavior might change, you get increased fights, get into car accidents, you start falling, so you start injuring yourselves. You pick arguments within the family, so it increases violence. So the ramifications are quite pervasive.
For many years, Zoe never thought that her drinking was a problem. She was in denial.
I was solidly and alcoholically for 10 years. I just thought people had a problem with me as opposed to what I did when I was drunk. I was very loud, I was very obnoxious. I'd pick fights with people much bigger than me, but I'd still walk away from it. I didn't want to be here anymore, and I tried to commit suicide. After that, one of my family members found me in my flat when I stopped answering my phone, and they took me to hospital and everything like that, and the next day they booked me into rehab. Only after 2 weeks in rehab did I realize that alcohol might be a problem. It's legal. I was above the legal age at that point, so I didn't see what the problem was. It took me a long time to realize that alcohol was the root of all my problems.
Alcohol has casually become an everyday part of many South Africans' lives, and very often with disastrous outcomes. But how did Zoe's parents try and help her with her drinking problem?
My mom tried to get me into recreational activities, sports, that kind of thing. The other part of my family tried to understand. And then tried to talk me into another direction. studies, school, that kind of thing. I wasn't very much into school. I didn't fit in at all, and the people I attracted to me were the people that drank. So it didn't really help. I didn't know how to live without nightclubs and bars. That's where I went every day after work. In treatment, when one of the counsellors said to me I can never go back to a nightclub, I burst out into tears and I cried for 2 days solid. Because what do you do on a Friday night? And they said, no, you do normal stuff without alcohol. And I didn't know what that was. So nightclubs were triggers for me, bars were triggers for me, pool tables were triggers for me.
How can parents and the community try and stop teenage alcoholism?
We need to educate our own children, and I think really it boils down to you and I taking care of our own households. The minute I take care of my children in my own house and know where they are 24/7, what they are doing with whom, I will then be reducing that irrespective of what the advertisement has done. I shouldn't expect the schools to do that. I shouldn't expect the pastors to do it, or any other person, not even SABC members or any other law enforcement agency, but you and I should play a part, and that's how really we can resolve some of the issues.
The education, it starts with the parents. So I think if the parents can be educated and be aware of the dangers of them drinking at home, and so we would need to lead by example. That would be the best way, is to just lead by example, educate the parents, so that, because I can't tell my child don't drink if I do. So children learn what they see.
Joyce is the grandmother of a teenager whose life is becoming increasingly out of control. She disappears for weeks on end, leaving her family to look after her baby.
Pregnant. Anyway, pregnant thing ne le gore ke ngwana ntse a kena sekolo re ne re so bone problem ya hae ka nako eo hantle ntle o qadile di problem tse tsa hae ha qeta o kra ngwana a ba sa thoma le anonya malla re sa tsebe gore o ile kae.
We tried to help the family track down 17-year-old Zanele. We were led to a house in Soweto where we found her boyfriend who didn't know her whereabouts.
Babu 10 besiloku samba nomngane wami umunye waseGlenbe kamshayelifa ukuthi mina bengimhambisela imali yokudla wasifika kuye wathi naye akafuni ukusala ufuna ukuhamba nami bathi kwa end up basokuthini usisi wakhe ufuna vele siujayive sahamba vele saya la ngase police station ngasenalini indawo lapha nakuvalwa yoperate 24 hours le kona Friday lo baba walaphana uyangazi umtshelile vele ukuthi ngicela ungasaphinde uze nalomntwana la ngoba ngibangibheka iage yakhe umncane yabo ngamtshela ngithi mina ngazi ana 19 yabo.
Should you see that as a member of the community, whether it is selling wine to an under 18 or a shebeen in the township, it doesn't matter. Just take a picture, forward it to us. When it comes to that, it's one of those zero tolerance matters. We shut them down with immediate effect until such time that, mitigating factors, of course, by the board would take place and so on.
So for how long, John?
I think in February.
This year?
This year.
I
realize
what you mean.
Ngimana kanjani?
Umntwana una 17 wena 33.
Mina ngazi umuntu una 19.
We asked Erica Nell, a social worker at Sanka, what can be done in cases like Zanele's.
Under the age of 18 still falls under the Child Care Act. Care and supervision of the child should still occur. In such a case, a child would very often or can be removed by a social worker and be placed in a place of safety. If it is found that the parents cannot control the child's behavior or that the child is a danger to herself. If we look at it from a substance abuse point of view, such a child would definitely be a candidate for inpatient treatment. one would want to have the family involved. It's usually a very complicated situation. Family relationships are complicated. Very often there's a poor role model at home that make things even more difficult to deal with the situation effectively.
Several weeks later, we found Zanele at her home. She was hostile towards her family, who were scared of her. She reluctantly spoke to us on condition that we keep her identity a secret.
I have no one to talk to about my problems. I used to speak to my mother about my issues, but she has since died, so I don't have anyone to talk to. I always fight with my dad and my aunt, so I feel it is best for me to just leave and go and stay at my friend's house. I feel misunderstood by all of them. I really do feel alone. Sometimes I just want to go away and never come back. I hate being at home. Growing up, I always wished I could stay with my mother, but I couldn't because my grandmother raised me. I never had that mother-daughter relationship that I always wanted.
Kabelo Sekgonze, one strong woman who said no to hunger. She never allowed circumstances to pull her down. At daybreak, she is up and running in the streets of Johannesburg to make her living. After 12 hours of hard work, she goes back home being able to put food on the table. Join me, Bule Molebatsi, on your show about those who take on and conquer life challenges every Saturday at 5:30.
Kabelo Mboga was given a second chance to go back to school and finish his matric after returning from rehab. He was happy that he had been given this opportunity.
I'm still adjusting because the last term I was not there, so it's difficult for me to able to catch other things because they one time, but it's good. Yes, I'm very happy.
But his happiness was short-lived. He was not allowed to write matric exams. Kabelo has since gone back to live with his parents in Soweto. This after his mother learned that Kabelo wouldn't write his exams and felt it better to go fetch him after hearing that he had relapsed.
Kabo September ke tsebe ba re a ska tlhola tla sekolong tla ngwala matric next year ba dula le pass for sure go dula gagage go gae go a qala gore nka ro qala dilo tse snacks so that's why ke bile ka molata ka re go bitera tle ko nna ke ikatele yena.
I don't feel good about him not writing exams. I believe every child deserves a chance to write. If ever he was given a chance and he fails, then he knows his weak points. But now you are told that you are not going to write because you didn't write your June examinations. And now he's helping other students who are going to write their final examination. So in a way, it's not fair.
It's unfortunate. Had he written all the tasks, he would be qualifying to sit for examination. Unfortunately, he won't sit for the final examination. We're just keeping him here in order to help him not to relapse.
Despite the school's efforts to keep Kabelo from relapsing by letting him attend school, even though he wouldn't write his exams, he still relapsed. His mother describes what she found when she went looking for him.
Mina ngifike ku Friday ngizomlanda nge saya ku pastor no Karabo sathola ukuthi u pastor usesontweni samlanda esontweni sathola ukuthi isonto liphumile kula angitshele khona ukuthi umntana bekangalala ekhaya for the whole week. Then uKarabe wahamba wayomfuna ngazi umthole kuchomi yakhe ku the time sizomthatha ke ngibuye naye ngapha.
Shit. Lapha bengifuna umoya kahle kahle ukuthi nakhona bengifuna ukusicabanga ukuthi kahle kahle kwenzakalani yabona ngoba benginokufila ngenye indlela lapha yabo ngoba ezinye izinto ngeke ngisikhulume ukuthi kokwenzakalani mara bengifila otherwise yabo. That's why ngathi futhi yangithi lapha kumfundisi bokulahleka iPlayStation manje ngithi mina bayazi ukuthi bengumuntu onjani bebasola mina kanti ukhonye omunye naye bekayenza lezo zinto ohlala lapha kumfundisi yena urelapsed yabona uye uyitshontshile bese ufuna ukuframe mina ukuthi mina ngithathile yabo.
We tried unsuccessfully to get the pastor's view of what may have happened, but what caused Kabelo's relapse?
Just futhi stress nami life nayo yabo the way inzima ngakhona the way mina ngibona life ngakhona yabo khona izinto bezingangiphathi kahle.
Kabelo's mother offers her view about what may have contributed to his addiction.
And ubaba makangena la umuntu bekalwa uyawuzwisisa nomntwana yabona kuyimi ngikhuza ngiyi1 yena nganasikhathi sokukhuza umntwana.
His father has suffered a stroke and we couldn't speak to him, but Kabelo's mother never lost faith. She hopes that he will eventually overcome his addiction.
Bengihlala ngithandaza ngumama umthandazo namaye ngisathandaza angakaqedi ukuthandaza ukuthi naye well all right mara abe 100% afane nabanye abantwana ngoba lento yakhe bengizwisa ibhlungu ngalesikhathi ngiyemsebenzini uthole ukuthi esitimeleni ngibona abantwana baye esikoleni baziphethe kahle.
Despite all these challenges, Kabelo's mother looks forward to a bright future for her son. She's hopeful that one day he will finish school and help to change the situation at home.
Mina ngifuna afunde lo mntana bright. Otherwise mina ngifuna isaseli elihle for yena.
Now one day akisikele sharp uphilo. Ke tlo khona ba opola ke batswadi ba ka ke bona ba ngodisitse. Ke cheka ba ka la bona. Mabo maka ke ba ka ta cheka batswadi ba ka. Ke gona batho ba lo re ko tlase. Ke dula mikhukhu. Aba ntutse ngata re na tsona. Le gona modimo tla re tla.
Born with malformation of the limbs, David lives his life to the fullest.
I got this, let me try on my own. Got on the bed, then start playing soccer in the streets, then like do this.
He can play soccer, he reads and writes, he is even able to swim, a role model to his peers.
Look at the scripture. It doesn't say I'm a conqueror, it says I'm more than a conqueror.
Join your host Buleng Mulebati on Bupilong every Friday at 17:30.